Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello, welcome to Game Over Montreal. I'm Andrew Berkshire. Oh, yes, Game Over Toronto as well, because it's a crossover, and I'm here with Lauren Williamson after the Montreal Canadiens, and in particular, Samuel Montembeault, put on a goaltending performance for the ages. I believe Mark Dumont was in the chat and said that it's the most saves in a shutout ever in an opening game. In NHL history, Mark? Is it NHL history? So Sam Montembeault, currently, we always do this with scorers, right? Like you score a couple goals in the first one and you're paced for 164. Sam Montembeault is on pace for the greatest season in NHL history among goaltenders. He ends the Toronto Maple Leafs 227 game non-shutout streak, I guess we'll call it.
Yeah.
And
the Leafs may never score again.
It kind of felt that way. Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back. We're serving up the same fun things as usual. Everybody's upset and, teams aren't what they want to be. And obviously in Toronto, there's a lot of pressure. So a game one loss with no goals is not great. But I will say they really held the territorial advantage in this one. The expected goal numbers are hilarious. But I think before we get into that, Lauren, let's talk about the goalies, because whether it was Montembeault or Stolarz, there were some huge saves tonight.
Yeah, Stolarz was far and away the best player in blue and white tonight. It was not particularly close. For the first 43 minutes of the game, Stolarz was the only person worth watching on the Leaf side of the ice. It was penalty after bad penalty after not scoring on a power play over and over again. There was Nick Robertson had one shift where he fell 3 times in one shift. And the only good thing of note to come out of this game, other than the fact that at the third period they decided to play hockey, was the fact that Anthony Stolarz, it's game one and I shouldn't already be sighing a sigh of relief, but if this is a year ago, Samsonov lets at least 2 more of those in and we lose 3-0 as opposed to 1-0. They did not provide him very much support at the beginning, and he made some unbelievable saves. And if that is a taste to come, then the Leafs are at least a little bit settled in net, and he may run away because Joseph Woll is now injured again. He may actually just designate himself as the starter on the first game of the season, which wouldn't that be nice?
It's always good to get a good goaltending performance. Even if it's a game that didn't go your way, it gives the guys a little bit of confidence. And I think for a team like Toronto that has so much offensive firepower, if you have a guy that you can trust back there, it just makes such a huge difference. And we've seen over the last couple of years that they've had stretches where they've had great goaltending, and then they've had stretches where it gets really inconsistent. And I do wonder how much that wears on them heading into the playoffs. I don't think any of the playoff series that they were in, goaltending was to blame for the loss, but it also hasn't necessarily won them a series either. So
it hasn't even won them a game in a playoff series.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Okay, Carey Price, arguably one of the greatest goaltenders of the 21st century, right? I think we can both agree on that. And that's a team that, is hard to cheer for, but Carey Price is a legend, and there's a reason for that. And it is well known that he can steal you a series. And while that would be a wonderful thing, the Leafs in the last several years have not had a single goaltender that is healthy for long periods of time, that is where they have above league minimum goaltending for more than 3 weeks at a time. Like the last 3 seasons, the Leafs goalie average has been around 900, and that's it. And so for Stolarz to come in and play as well as he did when the team in front of him was not playing well, if the Leafs can get their shit together and put some defense together and, get used to each other and actually put some performances together like the last 20 minutes of the game, then it does put them in a better position when it comes to 81 games from now. And hopefully going into the playoffs, if we make it, a goaltender performance like that does fill you with so much more confidence. I watched this is 60 minutes tonight, and I already feel so much more confident than I would have if Samsonov was in net. Like, it is a decided difference. Now, having said that, really quickly, Jack Campbell did recently enter the player assistance program, so wishing him all the best. You know, he was the Leafs home opener, what, 3 seasons ago now. And then Joseph Wall and Samsonov, and it's just been like injury and not good and injury and not good. And so for Stolarz to come in and play the way that he did, even though they lost, was like, there's a prayer answered there, my friend. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is a nice little, I was gonna say ace up your sleeve, but I don't know if it's that strong. But either way, it's a comfort.
More like a jack.
Yeah.
It's not even like a high face card. It's like you're just above a 10.
Yeah, it's good. You know, it's not winning the Stanley Cup in October good. Like
Nope.
you see many
Like
fan
Sam
bases get
Montembeault,
excited.
apparently.
Oh my goodness, I know. I don't even know what to say about Sam Montembeault. You know, I think that Montreal fans have been ahead of other people on how good Sam Montembeault is, but even last year, it seemed like the general hockey crowd that's starting to pay a little bit more attention to things like goals save above average, that kind of stuff. The last couple of years, Montembeault's been in, I believe, the top 10 consistently in goals saved above average, despite the Canadiens being a really poor defensive team. And again, like, he is such a battler. And I watch Montembeault game in and out, and I look at him and I don't know if he's like goalie of the future material, but right now, where it seems like goaltending in the NHL, there's like a 5 to 10 guys who are pretty consistent, and then like a couple guys in that top 10 that are fighting out for like best goalie in the NHL, but they're kind of even.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's just this huge swath of good goaltenders that aren't great, I find, in the NHL. But Montembeault's pushing into that great territory. It's just that the Canadiens, being in a rebuild, have hidden it, I think, in a lot of ways. And I remember last year when people were talking about like Team Canada goalies, and Montembeault was kind of in the conversation, but as an underdog.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Canadian people want over this guy. He's just such a battler. And I'm just going to take a quick second, Lauren. Sorry, I'm just looking at the stream chat here, and it's going pretty good. And I'm seeing we already have 60 people in, which is great.
Make sure you hit like, everybody.
Yeah, make sure you hit like. Make sure you smash subscribe on our channel. I think we've got like 40 extra subscribers today on Montreal, which is fantastic. But I'm trying not to like get emotional, but I really appreciate everybody who's here right now. I know that it's hard to get the word out that we're back up. We don't have a centralized way. You know, it'd be great if we did, but we were on the SDPN YouTube channel last time, which has a lot of subscribers that fed into us. But now we're relying on our community.
On you.
Yeah, on me, on the community, really.
No, on the people watching it.
Exactly, yeah.
On the viewer.
And that's kind of how it was before anyway, because it's not like we had a lot of like in-house promotion. We had Justin on socials that was doing a good job in that last year, but we didn't really get pushed on the main network, on the main shows. We didn't really get promotion that way. So we're kind of in the same spot. We just don't have the subscriber base. And what I've been telling everyone is, you are a part of this as much as we are. Without our audience, we ain't shit. So for those of you who are here, it means the absolute world. We've been putting in a ton of work over the last 6-7 months here to build this project. We're excited to see where it goes. I hope you like the new overlays, by the way. They're designed by Dave Murray from Dave Murray Illustrations, huge Habs fan. Every single market has their own. We have the period markers. We're going to switch between segments. Eventually, the little clock in the middle is going to count up so that we'll have like a idea of how long the segments are and stuff. We've got the cool boards here and the stick separator instead of just a little black line. Like, there's just attention to detail everywhere. And a mod helped design a little bit as well on these. She's been fantastic in building our social medias. Same with Kaya. And just seeing everything come together is so incredible. And as much as I think a lot of people are looking at me and saying like, this is yours, it's not. I'm a part of it. And what you're seeing now is a sliver of what Game Over is going to build itself into, because I'm the one who's had the time to invest right now. But now that we're getting in a space where we can pay people, we have a lot of amazing, talented individuals in this company who are dedicated to making it really great. So stick with us. It's only going to get better from here. And I guess you could say the same thing about the Leafs, Lauren.
Yeah, not quite in the same position as the rebuild situation, but if it keeps going like this, it might have to be because oh my goodness. Andrew, listen, so much of this, like when everything happened at the end of or halfway through last season, when everything was suddenly ended quite abruptly, we were all very heartbroken, but you took an opportunity to bet on yourself. And so far, it's been paying off, and hopefully it continues to do so a tenfold because all of the work that you have done and everybody else, all of the OGs from last season, everybody that is helping from far away. I know some of the people that aren't actually on the show anymore have actually like lent a hand in terms of advice and all of this other stuff. And so if you have not been here before, then welcome. And if you have been here and you're returning, thank you for coming back. We have missed you so much, and we hope that you can be a part of our great future moving forward. And so much of that, Andrew, is because of you and the work that you have put in. So thank you for your endless dedication and not giving up on the idea and the team and what we have that we know is so damn special.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing, you know, when we got taken off and just missing the community, you know,
Yeah.
how much I loved coming on here after games and just chatting with the people. Oh my God, I'm seeing Trinka, Hockey in Ottawa, you know, so many familiar names in the chat, and it just warms my heart. I see Brendan Labar from our new Winnipeg team there, who's in the chat having a good time. He says if he's good enough for Binnington to not be Team Canada's goalie, talking about Montembeault, I'll be very pleased. Yeah, a lot of the stuff in the summer was talking about Binnington being the starting goalie for Canada, and combined
if
the
he's gonna play like
hot-headedness.
that, if he's gonna play like that, Sam Montembeault has my vote for sure.
Oh yeah,
and like I will say, I think the Habs maybe not being as good now as they have been in maybe let's say like 8 years ago actually goes a long way to help Montembeault along, because by the time the team is like up to speed and competing at a level that you guys want to get to and the team wants to get to, then he is going to have like built several years of hardship and will hopefully get a little bit of relief, and we'll be able to grow even more because of that support, right? So I mean, going into the Worlds this year, and then you know in the Olympics in a couple years, like I don't see how you can't consider him as like a front runner, especially if he plays like, don't get me wrong, I don't catch that many Habs games, you'll have to forgive me. But on the few occasions that like I do flip it on because I'm eating dinner or whatever, like he's even on games where they don't win, he's been pretty good. Like
yeah,
you don't see him making these egregious errors that you see other goalies make, right? Like even Stolarz tonight, like there was one play where he went out of the net and like gave it away, and it led to like a 30-second ozone time for the Habs. Like other goalies that we've had, they do that 3 or 4 times a game,
yeah,
right? Or they make other defensive lapses or other choices where you're like, oh my God, what are you doing? And even though the Leafs are still, you know, tonight making decisions where I'm rubbing my forehead and sitting cross-armed more than I normally would in game one. It's also game one, man. Like anybody can win. The owner of the company that I work for, the other day, I was leaving work and he was like, so how about the Leafs, right? And I looked back at him, I said, you know, anybody can win the Stanley Cup in October.
yep.
So it's one game. Is it everything? No. Is it inspiring? Not particularly, but you know, the goaltending on both fronts today, I think we can both like shake hands and agree that that was a pretty good goalie game.
100%. You know, some great saves all around, and also I feel like, you know, as much as the shots were wildly disproportionate, there were a lot of scramble plays where I liked the fight that the Habs showed in front of the net to get to those loose pucks to stop the one scoring chance that, you know, definitely would have gone in.
Yeah,
that is something that the Canadians, even though they're in a rebuild, have actually been quite good at over the last couple of years, is recovering those scrambly plays, and they get
moving
into
the
them.
puck up.
Yes.
And moving the puck up quickly.
And they get into those scrambly situations way too often because there's still a team that's building, but it's a skill. And when you get to the playoffs, being able to hunker down and know that you can shut down those situations that are out of control is a big thing. Not that I think they're going to be in there this year. My one thought about Sam Montembeault is I remember reading this book for the first time, The Game by Ken Dryden, you know, one of the greatest hockey books ever written, if not the greatest. And he talked a lot about great team goalies or bad team goalies, and how there's like 2 kinds of goalies in the league. There are some of those goalies that need the 47 shots to, like, they thrive in it. You know, Jarro Halak was like that for a lot of his career. I mean, some people could argue Carey Price was, but I found Carey Price was at his best on good teams where he would just make it impossible for the
Yeah.
opposition to win. He would get more frustrated when things went too bad, I found. Not that he didn't have great games. But I do wonder if Montembeault will be able to key in this much when he's not facing 40 shots a game. I don't know if anybody's faced 40 plus shots as often as Montembeault over the last 3 seasons.
Well, and has he played in a game that was, I don't want to say important, but like he hasn't played in like nobody hasn't played in like a series winning game. He hasn't played in a game 4 where you're down, you're down 3-0 or your team's down a goal, right? Like he hasn't played really in the playoffs to any major extent, right? Like he hasn't played a game with a huge amount of pressure on him, and maybe that's a good thing and maybe it's a bad thing, and I guess that remains to be seen. If the Habs take a step forward and make it into the playoffs, no one thought that they would go far last time either, and look how far they got, right? Like one thing that I do want to mention that you spoke about is the Habs' ability to get the puck, like control the chaos in front of their net and move the puck out of their zone. And that's something that I'm sure tonight you noticed. Like every time the Habs were in the Leafs zone below like the face-off circles, it was literally like a 5-alarm fire, and everybody was just like swinging and skating and crashing, and it was like, oh God, it was so hard to watch.
Yeah.
And they have this really bad habit. And I noticed there was a play that I don't remember which 3 Habs it was, but there was a specific view on the boards of the Habs, and there was I'm guessing the defender that was just below the goal line, and they literally 1, 2, 3 passed it back to each other and got out of the zone in like 2 seconds. And the Leafs, meanwhile, they get sort of control of the puck, but they always, instead of moving it out of the zone, they move it across the ice to try to like get space. However, a lot of the turnovers that result in opportunities for the other team, for hard forechecking teams like Tampa, like Florida, like the Habs, is that if you have a player on the other team that's in position, they're going to get it every time, and your attempt to clear turns into an extended opportunity for that team. And it gives them confidence, and then they build on it, and it's awful. And I was really hoping that with the coaching change over the summer for the Leafs, that we would see less of that. And it didn't happen. Like it,
Not yet anyway.
Right. It's game 1,
Yeah.
right? But that was still evident in the preseason as well. And so maybe it's just my unending hope, but there was a part of me that thought that maybe things like that, like instead of moving it out of the zone and trying to go north quicker, I thought that would happen. I thought that maybe their power play woes wouldn't be as evident as they were at the end of last season. And so far, that's also not clicking. So, one of the really good things that, the Habs have pretty decent goaltending, all things considered, and they're pretty good in their own end. They just need to, make a little bit better opportunity for themselves and stay on the positive listen, if the Habs play special teams the way that they did tonight, your differential is going to be completely different than it was last year.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Like the Leafs were what? 1 for 4 tonight, 1 for 5 or over 5, and then the Habs are 1 for 5. Right. And that's not a huge statistic, but if you get one more power play goal, which they very well could have on the 5-on-3, then, then you're laughing going into the season.
Yeah. Adding that 5-on-3 goal would have been a big change, I think, on the flow of the game. Maybe it would have made Toronto
would have started
a bit more
sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. When I saw as soon as the Olays started, Kay on Twitter was like, "What? No, not this early. Stop that." And
I did say that. I was like, "Come on, guys, it's game 1. I know it's the Leafs, but
if you're an opposing team, I feel like you want the Olays early because it always triggers something, or at least almost always does. And by the way, for those who don't know, because we've announced on socials, but we haven't said anything on like YouTube page or anything, Kay from the community, who's been a day one game over person since day one, she's joining us. So she's going to actually be a game over host. She's going to come on as a guest in the next few episodes here, learn the ropes with Mark and I, and then we're going to let her fly. And I'm really excited about it because Kay is really important, I think, to this whole venture. I think she's always been really supportive, and she has something to say. She has a voice, like all of our contributors do, like all of you do. And we want to platform those voices. We want to take people who maybe wouldn't get a chance to share something and have something interesting to say that we wouldn't normally hear, and put them on the Game Over Network wherever they fit. Kay says she's so excited. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited to see so many of you back here already. Like, so many familiar names. Caufield, how many goals this year from Jax? We're going to talk about that in a second. Let's shift to our second period, Lauren. But before we do, I've got to tell everybody about Hyperdrive Hockey. If you haven't heard yet, the Game Over Network on our hub channel has a new flagship show called Hyperdrive Hockey. It's covering the hockey world at large, including the PWHL, including, anything that happens in European hockey, junior hockey, and the NHL. It's hosted by Maxime Van Hout, who was formerly at BPM here in Montreal, radio station covering hockey, and also Daphne Malbouf, who's from RDS, and she's coming aboard, and Kevin Laramé, who is joining us from TVA Sport, who is a really excellent producer who's producing the show. Daph and Max have worked together on a podcast before in French. This is their first go around in English, and this is what I'm really excited about for that show, because as everyone who lives in Canada knows, we're a very regional country. We're so big and so spread out, and so few people really relative to our size, that every area of the country has a very specific point of view, a very specific flavor, a very specific kind of creativity. And because there's this language barrier between Quebec and the rest of Canada doesn't really get to see a lot of Quebec's creativity and the way they approach things. So in taking three francophones and building an anglophone show, I think we're going to get something that's different than what anybody's ever really seen on the Anglo side of media. And I'm super pumped for it. The first episode is out now. So at Game Over Network in the YouTube search bar, click subscribe, get on Hyperdrive Hockey, and watch that first episode. Max wants to know if his English was good enough. I think it was great, but he wants pointers on syntax and stuff. So if you want to reach out to Max and tell him he did an awesome job, and same with Daph, please do so. And I can't wait for episode 2, which will be this coming Friday. It's Tuesdays and Fridays every single week, all year long. I can't wait for you to see it. All right, let's shift into our second period. Lauren, are you ready?
Ready.
The fancy button has been pressed, and we're now... Oh, I guess I have to put... There we go. It's live. So we are now in the second period of Game Over Montreal and Toronto. And my first thought when we were looking at this game, prepping for it, was... I think Cole Caufield's going to score in this game. I thought it was like people were freaking out a little bit in preseason. It didn't seem like the goal scoring was finding its way in. And last year, things went really poorly for Caufield in terms of his finishing ability. His scoring chances were great. He was actually getting better chances than the year before, more chances. His playmaking took a step. His defense took a step. This year, I expect the goal scoring to take the same step. Well, okay, not take the same step, but to get back to where we were in terms of finishing ability while keeping the improved play now that he's had a year to figure out that shoulder and warm up. And I thought he's going to score tonight. And what happens? Cole Caufield, the only scorer tonight, a wicked pass from Juraj Slafkovsky, cross crease for the power play goal. Cole Caufield.
A bit on it.
I know, yeah. And we were asked how many goals for Cole this year. I think 40. I think 40.
Wow. He had what, like 15 last year? 20?
He 28
like
or something, I thought.
Oh, okay.
Because he only shot...
I will say before we went live, when we had the fireside chat, which if you haven't seen, go look at our little release stream. It was a lot of fun. I started off there. I actually said in that the Leafs were probably going to lose and that the Habs were going to score first.
Yeah, I thought the Leafs were going to win in overtime and the Habs would like tie it up late, but nope.
So I actually went back and looked, and last season, do you remember how game 1 went last season? Remember what happened?
Last season, I feel like the Leafs went up 2-0, and did the Habs tie it up and then lose in OT? Is that... Am I remembering?
No, you got that backwards.
The Habs went up 2-0.
The Habs went up 2-0. The Leafs scored 3 in a row. Caufield, Newhook, and Julvanen got it up to 5, and then they actually scored with 1:07 to go to get Matthews the hat trick, and then the Leafs won 6-5 in the shootout. Which,
right.
So decidedly different game than game 1 of last year. Last year, we get a 6-5 blowout shootout situation. This year, we get 1 goal and a goose egg.
It's still a fun game, though, overall, considering, going from 11 goals down to 1.
Yeah.
But...
Well, and Leafs fans, you know I love you, and you know that I'm a Leafs fan forever, and this is maybe the only nice thing I'll say about a Habs player, specifically Cole Caufield, for the rest of the season. This was the first game that Cole Caufield was wearing Johnny Gaudreau's number, and I think that if anybody was going to score, even though it's Cole Caufield, I'm glad that it was him wearing Johnny's number. I can't be mad for that because of that.
100%. 100%.
Everybody gets one.
Everybody gets one. And of course, rest in peace to the Gaudreaus. A tragedy
Absolutely.
that never should have happened. It is absolutely ridiculous how soft we are.
Yep.
On
don't drink and drive, people.
Yeah, drinking and driving, but also just driving in general. I said this in like a quick clip that I posted on socials over the summer, but like cars are insanely dangerous, and we drive them in a way that is wildly too flippant. Like they are 2-ton murder machines, you know, or 2,000-pound murder machines. It's very easy to kill someone. And we're just, in general, all of us, myself included, way too impatient. Yeah. It's the fastest mode of transport, theoretically. It's the one you have the most control. And it's the one where we behave the worst. And I think as a society, we've just got to relitigate a little bit what we're doing there with cars. Just
focus on getting there safely, not quickly.
Exactly. And frankly, I've been doing a lot more public transport and a lot more biking over the last year, and it's so much more enjoyable. I grew up always thinking, like, I grew up in Saskatchewan, Alberta, a lot of driving, and I always thought I love driving. There are things I enjoy about driving. I like driving in the summer with the windows down, blasting music. That's a good feeling. But the more I drive and have to sit in traffic, the more I'm like, I actually hate this, and it makes me frustrated, and I'm stuck here. I can't do anything that I want to do. So I don't know. I feel like we've got to prioritize things a little bit differently, but this is a topic for another day. All right.
Let's not argue about transportation in game one.
Right.
That's like a mid-March conversation when we're like, oh my God, playoffs, please.
It's true, but it does make sense to talk about transport when it's Montreal and Toronto, right? So
sure. The Leafs did not do a good job of transporting. They transported about as well as the 401 in Toronto. And if you don't know what that is, you're welcome.
You're very lucky to not know about the 401 if you don't know.
I now have to, as someone that bought their first car actually last June and now actually commutes via vehicle and driving like 3 or 4 days a week.
Hate it.
There are great days, but they are very few. Some days, there are days, so I finish work at 4:30. There have been a couple of days where I am home at like 4:58. Ooh, it's so nice. And then there are days where I get home at 5:45 and I want to put my head through the windshield.
It's so deflating. So,
but I will not ride a bicycle in the city because there are way not good enough drivers in this city for me to do that. I've already been in one bad bike accident where I almost died in my life. One was enough.
Yeah, I've been hit by cut off by a car and rammed into the back going down a hill, which was not fun.
I was in a hit and run when I was 17 on my bicycle and I almost died. Fun fact. And that was in a small town, so I guess there's no safe place.
Be careful behind the wheel, people.
And wear a helmet, for God's sake.
Please wear a helmet. Please wear a helmet. So easy. You know, I got in a crash this summer and I smacked the back of my helmet off of pavement. And when I got up, I was like, well, that could have been a hospital trip or worse. Yep. But instead, nothing. Lauren, I was looking at some of the stats on this one, and the standout that I noticed, because the Habs top line at 5-on-5 got absolutely dummied. This is not a game to write home about for them. Yeah, I mean, last I checked was midway through the third, and I think you can chalk some of it up to score effects because you score early.
It's score effects for sure. Because it felt a lot more like when so the shots were decidedly like slanted to one side, which was weird because it didn't feel like the Leafs really had any actual decent chances. They hit a couple posts, but that's like one guy going in and deciding to, take a shot on net. They didn't really have any sustained zone pressure for more than like 15 seconds for the first 2 periods of the game. When they did get pucks on net, it was cleared from the front of the Montreal net immediately and was going the other way. It felt a lot more like every time the Habs got possession, there was actually like an extended opportunity for them where they were making good, smart, sensible plays, right? It's the whole KISS acronym, right? Keep it simple, stupid. And that's why the Habs scored on the power play. It was a beautiful tic-tac-toe play after doing another play that let the Leafs think that they were going to try that again, which led to the opportunity. Benoit was out of position, boom, over to Caufield, bang, it's in the back of your net. And the Leafs did not have any of that kind of constructive zone time offensive pressure at all. Like there was times where like, okay, Mitch Marner has the puck and then he passes it. It's like that episode of The Simpsons with the soccer player. Holds. It's the same thing. You do a lot of outside stuff, right? Which is a long time problem for the Leafs. There's lots of back and forth, but there's no really good sustained zone pressure with somebody in a good space to get a rebound and then continued pressure on top of that, right? Like, and so again, I hate to commend the Habs, but they did a very good job of getting sustained zone pressure and making it an actual offensive threat to the point where every time the Habs got in the zone, it felt like they could score. And it felt a lot like the Leafs were getting in the zone frequently and doing nothing with it. Nothing.
Yeah, and I think that's a really astute point because there are different kinds of like puck control, right? There's you can have a shift where you have the puck the entire time, but it's never really threatening. And you can have a shift where you cycle the puck a little bit and all of a sudden every player on the other team is out of position and it can go from not looking that dangerous to a goal extremely fast. Yeah. And it did seem like the Leafs were having a bit of trouble pulling the Canadiens out from their position in the offensive zone. They're getting pucks through, but maybe not as dangerous as the expected goal counts make it seem. And also, I think there's one thing that I always look at with expected goals is like, yes, at 5-on-5, the Leafs had 4.29 expected goals to the Canadiens 1.3, but that was over 32 shots to 17. Mm-hmm. So like the average amount of like expected turnover on the shots they're taking is not that much different between the two teams. And I think when you have a goaltender who thrives on kind of being under fire all the time, if you're not able to generate the extraordinarily high quality chances, like you're talking like something with a 20% like conversion rate based on where you're shooting from, then it's a little bit easier for those goalies to handle that situation. And Montembeault was on top of it tonight. But can I throw you the weirdest stat that I've seen? I was going to say this year, but it's game one.
Oh, can I just say one thing?
Sure.
One thing that I noticed on that same thought. One of the things that I noticed that because instead of looking at the Leafs PK, which has been good the last several seasons, so I don't really need to focus on it, even though it's a new season. I watch the Habs power play instead of the Leafs PK, if that makes sense. And one of the things that the Habs do that they did tonight that the Leafs do the opposite of, there was a lot of time where the Habs are in the zone on the power play and the puck moves more than the player with the puck. There is a lot of very smart passes, quick, fast, boom, boom, boom. The Leafs spend at least 50 to 60% skating around with the puck instead of trying to get a couple people in position, making small adjustments. Again, it's one thing to move a couple players around, like, up and down, what have you. The Leafs do a lot more puck carrying than puck passing on the power play, and it leads to so much turnover. So much. And, how long was it for the Habs on the power play when they scored?
I don't remember.
Like 40 seconds.
Oh, wow. It was their first power play goal in a very long time because they went 0 for the preseason.
Sure, but now it counts. So
it's true.
Right? Like the Leafs power play was good in the preseason. And then, so like for the Habs to move, that's one of the things I really liked about watching tonight's game the way that I did was I was able to differentiate instead of just looking at the Leafs PK, watching how the Habs play instead. And they did so much smart puck movement. There was no wasted pass. There was no, I just don't see anything, I'm going to move it. Every pass was calculated and was smart and concise and on target with the right amount of power. And the Leafs spent so much time skating around with it and then doing errant passes, either not looking or too strong to where the person receiving it can't get it. Anyway, tell me your stats. Sorry, I didn't want to lose that.
No. I'm glad you got in there and said it. Okay, so weirdest stat that I've seen in a very long time. I was going to say the year, but it's game one. The Leafs line of Ryan Reaves, David Kampf, and Steve Lorentz, who I look at them and I'm like, that's a terrible line. That line makes no sense whatsoever.
What in the Cabbage Patch Kids is that?
Yeah, can I read you their expected goal ratios in this game at 5-on-5?
Hit me with your best shot, Pat Benatar.
They only played 7 minutes or 7.5 minutes, but Steven Lorentz, 99.51%. David Kampf, 93.88%. And Ryan Reaves, 93.45%. And this isn't just like a couple of a couple shots and it skews the numbers like crazy. No,
This is a whole game.
This line, they played only a short time, but in 6:31 at even strength for Steve Lorentz, he was on the ice for 1.4 expected goals. David Kampf 1.3, Ryan Reaves 1.21. That's insane. After watching Ryan Reaves last year being a total
write-off.
Yeah, he was a negative addition to the team.
Sure.
It's one game. Crazy things can happen in one game, but I find that extraordinarily funny.
And like you said, if you scrolled on like elite prospects and just click through people down in like the bottom half of the league and you end up with those 3 players on your fantasy team, you'd be like, what the fuck is this? Right? And then tonight they're the best line on the entire Leafs team. They're the only team that really got more than one shot on goal in the same possession. Like, I will say, I know he's an ex-Hab. Max Pacioretty had a shift where he laid 4 hits in one shift, and I was like, no Leaf has ever done that. So that was nice to see. But yeah, this Cabbage Patch line kid, 4th line was interesting. I know that Steven Lorentz was very excited to be a Leaf. I don't know if you saw right before the game, he was like on the bench, like bouncing up and down. He was so excited. And like, if they're gonna play like that, then that's the far and away the best 4th line that the Leafs have had in recent memory, for sure. Can I retort with an equally aggressive and sad stat?
Yes, of course.
Last year, okay, the Leafs, do you know what the goal percentage was for Leafs goals by Leafs defensemen last year?
They were really low, weren't they? They had like a really low score.
They were last in the league.
Whoa.
Yeah. 8.1% of their goals came from a defenseman.
Wow. You know who was first in the league last year?
Not the Leafs.
Montreal, I'm pretty sure.
Fuck off.
I know. And the weirdest part is like it came from everywhere. Like David Savard last year was a sniper, and he's got some offensive capability, from junior, but also he has that one spin move that he does every couple games, and it works literally every single time because nobody expects David Savard to do a Savardian spinorama.
Yep.
It's really fun, but yeah, the Habs have
trade you.
The Habs have like a fair amount of surprisingly good like shooting defensemen between Matheson and Caden Gooley's got a pretty good shot. Arbor Xhekaj shot through the net last year. I think it was a wrist shot too that he shot through the net, which I've never seen before. He's just mutant strength. And then you got David Savard that can kick in a surprising amount. It adds up pretty quickly. Let's shift to our third period in a second here. But before we do, I just want to mention something about what we're doing here. One of the things that we're going to have to do in order to make sure that we can function through the year and actually pay people is crowdfund. We're going to have to get some cash from some people who really support us. And if you want to do that, if you want to support this company that's, trying to do something good in the world here, trying to move the media industry in a way that treats people a little bit more human, that puts people in positions where they're not, all looking like me, but a little bit more gray. We got to do some stuff where some people get a chance to say things, some people who aren't necessarily platformed in traditional media. We've got to look to the future instead of looking to the past, which is what I think a lot of traditional media in this country is doing. They're so stuck, they can't move on, they can't adapt. And we want to be there to adapt. And one of the ways that we're doing that is we're going to raise some money through LaRouche, which is a Quebec-based Kickstarter equivalent. Now, we haven't launched our campaign yet, but we want to spread awareness about it because it's really important that we nail a lot of targets in that first week. So I'm going to continue talking about it every single show pretty much until we launch, and then continue talking about it until our campaign's over. Because if we hit this crowdfunding goal, which is not that high actually, we're looking for about 15K, we become eligible for a grant from the provincial government of Quebec of about $75,000. Not a loan, full-on grant, which would allow us to pay a lot of people throughout the season. So we're really, really invested in getting that. And if you're not able to give a larger amount, there also will be prizes if you give on LaRouche. So if you have any ideas of things that you would like, feel free to message me on any social media, or you can send a message to info@thegameovernetwork.com. We're looking for ways that we can help entice people to help us do this. we also have a Patreon. If you can't give a lot of money, but you want to contribute a little bit every month, we have perks in the Patreon, including every morning between 9 and 10 a.m. I go for a 5 kilometer an hour, or 5 kilometer an hour. That would be slow.
So fast.
Oh no, actually no, that's what
quick.
I do. Yeah, I do an hour in 5K. And I just thought, why don't I open a Zoom meeting on those walks? And in the morning, if people want to chat hockey, if you're a patron, you have a certain amount on, we're going to have a calendar built, and you can just choose a day where you hop into the Zoom call with me and we'll chat in the morning. Doesn't have to be about hockey. It could be about anything. It could be about politics. I like to read. I like to watch different videos and stuff. I have a wide base of things to talk about. So you can join me for that and we'll have some fun. But really pay attention on the LaRouche thing. It's going to be really important for us as a company to manage things through the year. You saw with the SDPN, with young companies, things can change very quickly. So we're really dependent on our community to help us get there. If you can like the stream, if you can subscribe to the channel, if you could share, that also helps as much as giving money. So don't stress if you can't. We know everybody's getting squeezed right now. I see my grocery bills too. It's brutal out there right now. Cost of living in Canada is completely out of control, but we're trying to pay people appropriately for the work that they're putting in instead of the whole unpaid internship garbage that's the standard practice in Canadian sports media. So that's what we're trying to do. Now, let's shift gears to the third period, Lauren, where we can talk about this 5-on-5 slaughter for the Leafs and what we think it means, because it was rough. I'm trying to think what was the actual ratio there. I think 83.33% in favor of the Leafs in high danger chances during 5-on-5 play. The Canadiens got 1 each period and the Leafs got 5.
Right, but as we saw in the playoffs, you can be fine at 5-on-5, and if you don't capitalize on special teams, then it doesn't matter.
True.
Right? Like the Leafs had what? Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 power play. They had 10 minutes of a man advantage in the entire game, and they could not capitalize in a single second of it. Now, granted, okay, yeah, sure, they hit posts and a crossbar. And how much do those count for? Not much, right? So I hate to say it, but like the first half of my notes are like complaining about people. It's like for Domi to take a penalty a minute and 16 in, and then Timmins gets another penalty like 5 minutes later, you kind of handicap yourself right at the beginning. Now, they score on the second one. The Habs score on that second power play, which, fair enough. That's what it's there for. But this is a problem that has plagued the Leafs in seasons past, in other coaches, with other people, with the same personnel. And so it was the 5-on-5, the statistics are telling you, like, what does the deserve to win a meter tell you? Like, I'm sure the deserve to win a meter says that the Leafs should have won. And yet again, they are fine at 5-on-5, but they don't produce. They do not produce on their power play. It's to the point, again, more than one person on X, no longer dead naming Twitter, was saying, can we just decline power plays? Because it doesn't seem to help us. Right? Like, the Leafs are fine at 5-on-5. They usually produce 1 or 2 at 5-on-5. When you go against a good goalie, you hope that maybe a power play advantage or an extra man advantage, or, pulling your goalie at the end and giving yourself an extra power play essentially with 2 minutes to go gives you that advantage. And if you can't capitalize it, then it doesn't matter, right? Like, you can be as good as you can be at 5-on-5, and if you don't score when you have to, you can't win a game 0-0.
True. Although I will say, the Leafs, as much as, power plays can be frustrating, since the 2021 playoffs, where the Canadiens went on that nice little run and have been rebuilding ever since, the Leafs have clicked at over 25%, third in the league. And guess what the Habs are at?
28.
15.8. 31st.
Oh, see, that's not bad. Oh, yeah, that's bad. Never mind. I was trying to be nice.
It's not great. They're actually 31st of 33 because they've split the Utah Hockey Club from Arizona, because I guess they decided they didn't want to take Arizona's stats, which is such a weird thing, but
whatever.
Okay.
What a weird thing to split a hair over.
Yeah, but I know the feel.
The Leafs at the beginning of last season, their power play was great for the first 2 months. maybe even 3. Into the new year, it was good. And then it was like a wet, sad fart going into the playoffs. And then it continued through the playoffs and the first round exit, where they were 1 for 21. Like, and it's a new coach, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know. It's things like this that gaslight me into thinking that remind me that it's not gaslighting to think maybe the personnel are the problem on the ice.
Yes. Kay reminds me that I have to say what it was in the playoffs, and it was 3-1. We have to remember that is the turning point, of course. Yeah, it is tough. I find the pressure is so much different when you're a team that has expectations versus being in a rebuild. You know, as much as doing the last few seasons of Game Over has been at times trying, because you're trying to figure out what you can talk about with a team that's losing all the time, especially that first season, it's so much less pressure. Like you're just not as emotionally drained from the losses as when you want to win really badly. So I get it. Yeah. Especially when you have a long period where you're in the competitive window and you're just not getting results, it's got to be tough. And I feel like it's got to be tough in that room too.
Yeah. You would hope that, like, in their first game, new coach, you would get a win, right? You would hope, okay, coach, like, it's not our home opener, but we got you the win anyway. Maybe their first win comes against their old coach tomorrow night.
Hey,
on Game Over Toronto. Make sure you don't miss that. I will be on it.
Yeah, I have a feeling that one's gonna be a little bit.
I'm sure there will be some fire. I'm not gonna lie. I was actually expecting more fireworks tonight than actually happened.
So was I. I thought it was gonna be a bit of a rougher game.
I was pleasantly surprised that no one's head was taken off separately from their body.
Arbor Xhekaj behaved himself.
That was not on my bingo card. Just saying.
No, he used all the intimidation in preseason when it didn't matter anymore. Got away with not getting suspended twice, and now he's good. He'll be a good boy now.
He just had to get it out of his system. That's
exactly. All right, coming up in a second here, we're gonna do what's called overtime now, because we're shifting into the hockey terms, and we're gonna take questions from our stream chat. But before I do, we got to tell you, we're on Game Over Montreal's page right now because it's a crossover. But Game Over Toronto is live tomorrow night, Lauren.
Yeah.
Back to back against New Jersey, and Lauren is hosting, and you can go over to the Game Over Toronto channel. You can search at Game Over Toronto in the YouTube search bar, or you can click on our own page here on Game Over Montreal, scroll to the bottom, and we've got all of our channels nested down there, so you can find them all super easy. Also, hit up the GameOverNetwork.com. All of our channels, all of our team channels through the Game Over drop-down menu there. You can live stream straight from the website. It's embedded. You don't have to go to the YouTube if you don't want to. I mean, obviously the stream chat's fun, but you can go right in there and you can check out our Discord, which is also linked on there. Join our community. All of our
Game Over hosts are
in there. Yes, there's also new merch that Brady from Game Over Winnipeg designed, because we found out over the summer when we were talking to everybody about what their skills could be in a relaunch, that Brady has done a bunch of clothes design, and his designs are incredible. Like he's got a retro 90s design for each market. He's got like streetwear inspired stuff called our established line. And then we've got a line called Live and Die by the Goalie, which is really, really cool. Also comes in a hoodie. Check it out. The established line has a small sale through the month of October because we're hoping to get some folks supporting us. But seriously, the designs are really, really cool. They're can't really wait to get mine. I've ordered a bunch, and then I've got to get everybody's shirt sizes from Game Over and get everybody else set up so we can wear them on stream. But we have a lot of cool stuff. Go to thegameovernetwork.com, peruse around. There's cool stuff there. Hyperdrive Hockey has a page. Meet our team a little bit, and subscribe to Game Over Toronto, subscribe to Game Over Montreal, and smash the like button on this stream as well. All right, Lauren, let's take some questions from our stream chat.
Let's do that.
Because what's more fun than interacting with our amazing community? All right, we have started overtime. Let's see what we got here. I saw there was one question earlier here. Bernardo Saunier, when I was talking about the prizes at LaRouche, he's like, could one be a house? And I wish,
Can I answer that?
That is what, if I had a house, this wouldn't be a problem because I could just borrow against it. But as it turns out, when you're a millennial who doesn't own a house, the banks say, fuck you. And that's how life works. So you got to figure out other ways to finance a company.
We can give you like a dollhouse.
There you go.
Like I could make you like a miniature, like a little house ornament.
But there are
It's like a Temu house. You know what I mean? Try to order a house on Temu.
You get it, and it's just like one of those cardboard houses that you get for the kids for like Christmas.
I could give you like an old ratty cat house. There's one that's disassembled by Potato on the floor back here.
I've got an old litter box. What's the difference, really? But yeah, one of the cool things that we're going to do at LaRouche, we do actually have some cool plans already. One of them is on Mondays and Thursdays, I have private boxing lessons with my trainer, Kevin Lan at H2O MMA. And we're allowing a select number of people who donate a certain amount can come with me. Not sparring, because frankly, I will spar with people who I know, but you can't pay like $100 and then try to knock me out. That's
Punch you in the face.
That's not happening. I am confident in my own skills, but I'm not entertaining money for getting punched in the face. That not unless it's a lot more money than what we're trying to raise.
Not that desperate yet, guys. I'm not that desperate yet.
Yeah, if you want to donate the whole $15K, I will give you one clean shot.
You can punch me in the face too.
But
$15K.
yeah, if you want to learn some boxing from an amazing coach, Kevin is the best. I love this guy. He's so instrumental in the changes that I've been able to make over the last 2 years. So that's one of the cool things that we're offering. But yeah, subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Let's see if we got some more questions from the stream chat. Frederick Goulet says, how many goals for Austin Matthews this year, Lauren?
Ooh. Does it? Okay. Assuming he misses no games, because he missed a couple last year. I don't know if he'll hit 70 again. Not with a performance like that tonight.
That's a big ask. Even
that's a big ask. He could, I would be willing to put money down that he gets more than 60. I would say he hits 60. If I was somebody that liked to gamble, I would put money down now that he would get 60 goals by the end. At least 50. 50 is like it's like walking into the bank and just walking out with a briefcase of money for free.
Isn't that incredible to have a guy on your team that you're like, yeah, 50, no problem. Like, it's not even a discussion.
It's still weird. Like it's like when I was a kid, there was no Leaf that was that good. There was no Leaf that was particularly close. Right. Even in Matthews' early seasons, I don't think any of us thought, like, we thought, wow, wouldn't it be great if he got like 50 goals? Do you remember when Craig Button once said, like, there's no way Matthews gets 50 goals. There's no way he comes close to Draisaitl. And while in some ways that's true, right? He has none of the playoff prowess that Draisaitl does. I will give that to you. He is the only player in recent memory to get above 65 goals. And that's a hell of an impressive stat. So I would love him to hit 70. That would be fabulous. But I would put $20 down now that by the end of the season, he has over 60 for sure.
Yeah, I am totally with you. I think unless he suffers another like wrist injury or something that messes him up. Yeah. And even the wrist injury before, I remember they're like, oh, this is gonna, like, he's been suffering from this wrist injury all year. And it's like, oh, he's only on pace for like 63 now. I know. Like his ability to put the puck in the net is second to none in the sport.
Sorry. Yeah. I got really excited because I went to the game a couple years ago against the Jets where he broke the Leafs record for goals by a Leaf in a season. And it was the longest standing ovation I've heard and like the longest cheer I've heard in a Leafs arena. Now I haven't been to a playoff game, so forgive me. But that's at a regular season game. I've never heard the crowd be like that for so long, for so loud. And so that was magical. And then like last year he beat it by like over 10 goals. So, it's to the point now where it's almost comical.
It is.
It feels like every time he gets, and I was actually thinking about tonight because I was watching the game, and is it, as a Habs fan, as someone that does not have Austin Matthews on their team, when he's like in your zone with the puck, are you like holding your breath and like, oh fuck? Is there like an oh shit factor?
100%. I mean, I had that with even Phil Kessel. Like Phil Kessel had an oh shit factor when he was streaking into the offensive zone. But I remember Matthews early in his career, how quickly he just like dominated Carey Price. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is not going to be good for a while. Like, this is not a good matchup that they have this guy that can just immediately turn this MVP caliber goalie into not a pumpkin, but he had Price's number. Like, he could beat him clean, and very few people could do that. Ovechkin could, and Matthews just right away as a teen, could do that. So he's very, very special. I saw Frederick also asked how many points for Slafkovsky this year. I think 65. I think he's going to hit 65.
Nice round number.
Yeah, I think he's going to grow on last year a little bit, but it's not going to be like a huge offensive explosion. The Habs aren't quite there yet to facilitate that. I expect him to be around the same as last year, maybe a few
How do
more
you split the
goals.
points at 65? How do you
20,
split in the points?
25-40 probably.
That's good.
Yeah, he's more of a playmaker
Pretty balanced.
than a goal scorer. I think. I think he has more to give, but it'll take time.
He's young, man.
Charlie's in here asking evil questions. When's the last time a Hab scored 50? Dude, we're waiting for 40. I haven't seen a Hab score 40 since, like, I want to say it wasn't Brian Bellows. It was Vincent Dompoos, I think, in the late 90s, maybe 98.
Thank you, Charlie. I love you.
Very evil, very evil. Frederick Willie says Richer was the last one to 50 in the 80s, and the 80s barely counts. Kay asks, is Lane Hutson going to be a Calder nominee, considering that he's a defenseman? I'm going to throw a hot take out there. Lane Hutson's going to win the Calder. I think Macklin Celebrini will put up a lot of points. Obviously, he got injured to start preseason, which sucks. But I don't think he's Connor Bedard level quite at this time. And the Sharks are a mess. Lane Hutson's on a team where he's probably going to take over the top power play in a bit. And the Canadiens are kind of on the rise. They have enough offensive players to support him. And
he could do it this season.
He could. Like, he is very, very good. And I'm trying not to jump the gun too much with Hutson because the underlying numbers are phenomenal. The track record is phenomenal. He's putting up like the kind of things that you expect from a guy like Quinn Hughes or Cale Makar to do in his like progression. And I know he's small, but he just doesn't look out of place. Like, he's always in the right spot. He's very smart with how he chips in on the puck. I think people are going to watch him a lot this year and realize how good this kid actually is. And it's just the start.
Yeah. Dina Zulu in the chat asked, Lauren, which goalie gets the net for tomorrow's game? Glad you asked. I would guess Dennis Hildeby, if I'm being totally honest, because Joseph Wall is now on injured reserve, which means he can't play for at least a week. Matt Murray just passed through waivers and he is still injured. Anthony Stolarz was great tonight, and if they play him tomorrow, I will never forgive Craig Berube for playing him on a back-to-back to start off the season after a game like tonight where how badly the Leafs played in front of him. I think that tomorrow we get to see the Hilda Beast for the very first time, and I cannot wait to see the top of the goal net reach his elbows. It's going to be great. He's huge. He is 6'7".
That is insane.
He is a large man. He is like, there's no like, oh, you have to put your glove up to cover the top cheese. No. His chest will do that because that's how tall he is. He's ridiculous.
A full foot taller than me and on skates. Like, he's literally out there. Like, when you count the skate blade and the brace, like, it is pretty much a 3-inch rise. He's out there at 6'10", basically.
There was a video I saw on Reddit the other day, and it was like Wembanyama standing beside one of the other players, like the shortest player on the team. And it was like a Disney movie. I was like, what in the science freak is this? It was comical. It looks like a comic strip, man. It's wild.
Did you see Pete Blackburn interviewing Nikita Zadorov?
No.
Or Zadorov? Yeah, because Zadorov's like, what, 6'6", and Pete is even shorter than I am. It's hilarious. They have him sat, and like the two are sitting beside each other on separate chairs, and Pete has one picture taken on his Instagram was just Pete's head up to like Zadorov's nipples, and his head's just cut off. And it just cracks me up. I love that Pete leans into that because short kings, you got to be confident.
Short king, man. You have to.
You got to be. All right.
You got to lean into that.
Thanks, everyone, for tuning in to this premiere episode of Game Over Montreal and Toronto. I can't wait to see you jumping in the chat tomorrow with Lauren on Game Over Toronto. She gets to introduce some of the new team there. We have a lot of really cool people who have joined us here for the relaunch of Game Over. I guess it's not really a relaunch. It's just a launch because I'm kind of taking what we did before as a beta test. It was a 2.5-year beta test. So
sure.
Let's redo it.
That was a pre-release.
Yeah. Let's kick some ass, take over our next thing in sports media. We're going to change the game a little bit. Lauren, thanks for coming out. I'm Andrew
Sure, man.
Berkshire.
Thanks for having me.
This is Game Over Montreal and Toronto. Please smash that like button, hit subscribe, and, have fun with it, right? And we'll see you next one.
See you, everybody.